Is how did you know you wanted to get into games?
Um, so I've been gaming since I was a child. Probably, what are we talking now? Like seven, eight, I think. So you're talking around like um, probably Amigas, Amstrads, that sort of
Mhm.
area. Sort of tape versions of games. First memories are primarily of things like Street Fighter or Tekken, with the single-handed joysticks with a couple of buttons on that would allow you just to do very basic maneuvers. So yeah, very long time.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's just been a great passion. So it's allowed just kind of escape from everyday life, and yeah, just essentially
yeah.
wanted to kind of give back and enjoy that sort of atmosphere.
Did you ever go to like school for games, or did you do something different?
No, I did. So once I finished secondary school, I went to college. My local college at the time had it was kind of a very sort of broad programming kind of
Yeah,
course that they did. So my first couple of years was just kind of getting used to kind of doing all the programming, very generalist bits. Second year, we kind of had an option to go into like a game side or a sort of business side kind of thing. So I obviously opted for the game side, which is why I chose to go to college.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, went for all of those. Did a few sort of basics stuff with all the coding and stuff, and then after that, I went off to university. So yeah, then I went did university for 4 years. At the time when I went to university, there was only like three universities doing a specific game course.
Yeah.
So it was very few and far between compared to today, where every university seems to do a some form of gaming course to a degree. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but I got to where I am today. So yeah.
Brilliant. And so, what was your first interview like in the industry?
Um, where was my first interview? What was it? Quite nerve wracking, actually. I'm trying to think where it was. I can't think where it was. It was quite a few at the time, of kind of leaving university of trying to get into it. Um, but no, it's quite nerve wracking. You're going to this big corporation, and you kind of have to sell yourself to kind of say, I'm good enough to do this job for you. Um, and yeah, at the end of the day, they made you feel really comfortable. The majority of the interviews I was having was kind of sort of half a day to a day, which was multiple kind of interviews with different people, potential kind of bit of sort of coding and stuff. Um, so yeah, they made you as comfortable as you could be. Obviously, you have a bit of nerves to start off with, but that kind of dissipates as you go through. So yeah, it was good. It was a lot of interviews, a lot of talking to people, and just finding with myself kind of where I needed to progress a bit more from coming out of sort of some of these places. So,
My next question is, what does being a senior technical developer entail?
so it's not your average kind of software engineer role. So at Jagex, I work on our flagship product of RuneScape. We have our own in-house language that is loosely based around Java. So Java is our primary driver of our servers. So they built a in-house language that kind of works alongside it. So I'm predominantly working with that. My major role is to kind of work with all the systems that get implemented with what's known as RuneScript, which is the scripting language. Um, and yeah, that's kind of that's my area of expertise. Is I will sit with all of like the sort of systems, make sure they all function properly, have all their endpoints and stuff relay as it should. If there's any sort of problems with engine commands or anything like that, I'll liaise quite heavily with the engine team. Um, which then allows essentially our content developers, as they're known, on the other half, to create quests and all the gameplay mechanics that everyone kind of strives and sort of plays with. So yeah.
Uh, did you start Jagex as a junior and work your way up to a senior, or did you start as
No,
a
I
senior?
actually started Jagex as a QA.
Ah,
Um, So I got in. I get in through the QA door. I was kind of so bit of a story. So I started off at a small like development company working on Wii games as a junior developer. That sadly the company went bust after I'd only been there for 6 months. So I'd gained a lot of knowledge in that time, but by the time that I'd actually kind of come out of that and started looking for another job, it was kind of just after Christmas, just after all the games and everything had just kind of all been published, and it was really hard to kind of get back into the industry. So one of my friends that I'd had with university said, "Hey, we've got QA roles open up down here. Funnily enough, opposite the pond of where Jagex is Frontier Developments." So I started at Frontier with a QA position. Was there for I think about 3 or 4 years. Then my line manager of QA moved over to Jagex and headhunted me to say, "Hey, come over here. We've got some cool things going on, and you can probably actually get into development from over here quicker than what you probably could in Frontier." So I jumped ship, came into QA. Within 6 months, they'd opened up a new role for content development. Took the opportunity to go for it, and that's kind of where my object started. After that 6 month trip of QA was then another 9.5 years now. I'm just over my 10-year mark at Jagex. I've been a technical developer. So
So QA, for the people that don't know, do you want to explain what that is?
yeah, so QA obviously stands for quality assurance. They are essentially the guys and girls that sit at the end of the development cycle. Not necessarily always, they generally chime in all the way through, but they are our last line of defense before everything goes out to the players. They will test everything thoroughly. They'll go through any form of quest or gameplay multiple times with different accounts at different stages of their life cycle, and just thoroughly test the hell out of everything just to find any form of bugs, any form of issues. They then get reported back by them to the developers, which then we turn and fix, and hopefully it then passes through to be released to everyone else in the wider world.
What would you recommend to someone who's just starting their journey?
Um, don't be afraid to network. You can always, for the majority of places I've been to, everyone is really happy to talk about what they're up to, what they kind of have been up to throughout their life cycles of what they're working and stuff, and generally just kind of are happy to give back, sort of, to them. At the end of the day, you are a junior, yes, but the seniors and leaderships have brought you on because we think we can bring you up to the standard of a senior. So we're always happy just to chat with you, talk about how you kind of can write your code more efficiently, why you might be doing it in certain ways. Just freely ask questions. There's no wrong answer. There's always a discussion point.
Is there a difference between the atmosphere between Frontier and Jagex, or is it pretty similar?
Oh God, you're asking me to think back like 10 years now. It's probably changed a lot since I've sort of left, but no, at the end of the day, everyone is here to make games. They enjoy making games, and that's ultimately what everyone wants to do is to make the best game they can to give out to people to enjoy it. So obviously now it's past a pandemic. There's a lot more remote working, so it's a little bit harder to get a good atmosphere. I think that's possibly where a lot of people would struggle now that everything is kind of more remote working, especially for new juniors and stuff. It's quite hard to kind of get that like personal response time that you would from being in the office. That not everyone is always in the office. So, but yeah, I don't think much has potentially changed. Yeah.
So when time constraints come in, because because I'm pretty sure every company has their time constraints. How do you deal with overcoming that stress?
I think every company does it in a slightly different way. Um, while I've been at Jagex, we've never had any crunch time.
Really?
The end of the day, we have planned out all of our work that we know what we can potentially cut if time is at the essence, or we push it back maybe a week or so. That just allows us that bit more time. Um, my machine decided to show something. Yeah. Obviously, every company is different, but theoretically, as long as your producers, as long as you're talking to your producers about the work you're doing, how sort of how you're progressing with it, and whether you're going to make the deadline or not, they can generally make a good assumption. I think we're quite lucky in Jagex that we are an online game, so we can essentially push things by like a week or two. Obviously, that does throw out marketing and all that sort of stuff because they're obviously at a point where they're trying to sell this new thing we're trying to release to the players. But yeah, if we have to do that, there is that possibility. Yeah, or if not, we should be in a good enough place where we can say, well, actually, we don't need X, Y, Z of this project to go out right now. We can save it for like a post release and come back to it slightly later. So
So is there a project that you would really like to work on in terms of
um,
in
I would really
Jagex
like
or
yeah, I'd really like to work on our unannounced projects that are in the go. They're looking really cool and promising. But you know what? I'm very technical minded. When it comes to someone say, "Hey, can you write a quest?" I'm like, "What?" But if someone goes, "Hey, write a system that does X, Y, Z," I'm like, "Yes, give it to me. I'll write it in like a week." So um, I've had a few of those projects where yes, I've absolutely loved doing that. Like mobile for one, I worked on all the systems to help rewrite all of the UI for when we ported onto mobile. I recently helped out with moving all of our achievements out of our scripting system into Engine to make it more efficient. That's the kind of technical aspects of stuff that I enjoy working with, and that's the fun stuff I love to get hold of.
oh, nice. What was what's the process to become a senior?
That's a tricky one.
Is it just time and
Um,
experience?
yes, not necessarily always time, and not necessarily experience, but the way that you proactively go about your job is more than anything. If you're showing to your lead that you're kind of essentially just picking up extra tasks here and there, that you're not releasing content with like loads of major bugs, that sort of stuff, which does kind of come with experience and time, but also sometimes at the same time you can just kind of just do it straight away, depending on how you've picked stuff up as you progress through your career. So, like yeah, it's a little bit of time, a little bit of experience, and just kind of knowing kind of what we've set out for like a senior should be. We have quite a few sort of guideline steps of pillars that we kind of marry up to what kind of you're doing. But generally being proactive, picking up extra stuff is generally a good thing, showing that you can be very independent, you're not releasing loads of bugs, that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Nice. What do you think makes a great technical developer?
Um, Someone that loves to for me, someone that loves to pick up systems and just like tinker essentially and make sure that those systems are very robust. At the end of the day, you're writing a system that a lot of people could potentially plug into, so having having that flexibility is always a good thing. Yeah, so as I said, within Jagex, we kind of split kind of two roles. There's a content developer side which still works in RuneScript, and then there's like a technical developer side which still works in RuneScript but doesn't do all the kind of writing of quests and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we manage all the kind of systems, the main HUD, how quests are plugged into, that sort of stuff.
So, what do you think makes a great leader in some of the teams that you've worked in, or?
My lead is a very good example of a great leader. She will. So we've obviously got a mutual agreement at the moment that we check in with each other every fortnight. We discuss kind of what I've been up to within that fortnight, any issues I've had, what I'm working on next. We talk about sort of engine side stuff, where sort of the engine tickets are, whether that's going to stall any of our process that's going to kind of go forwards. Then we just have like a general chat, just kind of how we're doing, how we're feeling working from home. So you don't get to see everyone in the office so often, that sort of stuff. And then she basically leaves me alone for another fortnight, unless it's absolutely urgent that she needs to get hold of me or something that I really need to get hold of her. Obviously, this is specific to me. That could differ to everybody, but like a great leader should be allowing you to work at your own pace, and make sure that you know they are there if you need them for anything. So sometimes I think some people can kind of get down in the whole nitty gritty of being micromanaged, but you know, every person is different, and some people enjoy that, whereas others kind of like the whole kind of hands-off experience. And your lead should be able to know that about you and work with you accordingly based on it.
In the same regard, what do you think makes a good team member?
Again, someone that can get on with their work, but at the same time is not afraid to speak up when they're struggling. Everyone, including myself, have a tendency to just go at a problem for hours on end, until it gets to like the end of the day and you've written like one word because you're trying to figure out how the best this works. There's generally enough people around you that you should be able to talk to, and they should be happy to respond to you, as well. So they obviously be approachable, and should be able to help you out with all of the situations. So yeah, a good team member obviously is someone that is willing to aid you when you need it. Obviously, when it comes to code review as well, is to give good feedback, constructive feedback, is always a good one. Yeah, and just kind of a generally nice person that you can talk to. So yeah.
Is there any point in time where you were working on a project you really did not enjoy? You don't have to tell us the project, of course.
Yes. Probably actually going back to mobile. So mobile came out for RuneScape just over a year ago, but before that, I was on the development process for nearly 6 years, and at times it got really hard, and it was not enjoyable. And yeah, like it came down to kind of essentially product aims, product producers having different visions, then leaving, getting new producers, new product owners, everything changing again. Yeah, it was just kind of, I think we went through about maybe 3 different product owners in the 6 years of getting that through. obviously they all had different visions. They all had different things that wanted to come of mobile. We as developers also had a different vision, and sort of the end of the day, we were kind of like, we need to get this out to players. It's in a state where it can be given to players. But then there was others that were just kind of like, well, if we hold it back for like another month or two, we can probably get these features plugged in, which never happened. And then it pushed to like another year down the line. And we're like, oh
Yeah.
God. So yeah, it was a challenging time. But, we came through it. We've got something now that's been released fully for a year. Obviously, within those 5 to 6 years, we had like alpha testing, beta testing and stuff. And it was open in air quotes for a good sort of 2 years before it was fully classed as being a full release. But yeah, we made it, we got through it, we moved on, and yeah.
During that time, was
Here
there
we are.
any coping mechanisms that you used to get over the sort of stress and burnout of it all?
Taking holiday. It's always a good one. Just essentially taking the holiday to allow you to just forget about work for like a week or 2 weeks is always good. It just allows your brain just to kind of stop going 90 miles an hour about what could or couldn't come in on the next kind of day of them asking you to do things. I found as well another one was talking to my lead as well. Sometimes it can be hard to open up to people about it, but having someone there to just kind of vent a bit at, essentially, allowed her as a lead to kind of say, hey, look, guys, to the stakeholders and stuff, that some of these guys are getting to a point where they're not wanting to work anymore. And it allows that conversation at a slightly higher level than what I might be able to bring up. Luckily, in-house, we also have a lot of well-being volunteers that have been through all the well-being training and all the time to talk stuff that kind of happened a couple of years ago. So we've got all the mental health aiders and stuff. They're always we've got a nice Slack channel in our kind of work domain where they kind of post good things to kind of go and read or things to do just to kind of help you relax and all that sort of stuff and de-stress. But yes, there's different things there that the company have allowed us to kind of have this and that time. But definitely the main two I feel are speaking to someone. Doesn't necessarily have to be your lead, but just speaking to someone just to kind of air your thoughts, and taking holiday to have a good rest and a break, just not to think about work and just let your mind kind of just slow down a bit more. So yeah.
Yeah,